every year.
There's a total disconnect now between the ruling group and the masses.
I hate psychology.
Clear out.
They're the same worm-like characters.
Analysts.
Fuck you with your stupid argument.
They should not bother us.
Democracy. All of this just works.
Vote for the generations who are coming.
Fully dynamic game engine.
A millennial video essayist.
Always support strength,
Constant craving.
and identity.
I haven't yearned.
They are a disease of our time.
Clear them out. You're voting for what your grandfather and father fought for.
I sit and yearn.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Longhouse, the weekly show for the sensible centrist. And we're back. It's been a week. Last week we were at a live event at roughly this time, so we weren't able to stream, but we're back. And this week we're doing... apologies. This week we're doing a new sort of catch-up roundup show. I'm still in a little bit of the the baby bubble, as it were. I'm back at work, which means that I have less time to spend on other stuff these days. But slowly but surely, I'm sort of getting into the rhythm, and we'll get back to some more sort of long-term content that we're working on. Luddic Path, welcome back as always.
Always good to be back. We had a great, Thursday last week in Tromsø with the Fox Student Association. So
Yes.
shout outs to the people from there who are listening, and good morning to, I guess, the American listeners, and good evening to the European ones. We did pick out some topics here. The world currently is completely crazy. I had like a list of 12 different news items that I wanted to talk about, but it's just a little bit too much, I think. So we should just keep it short and focused.
We had to pare it down a little bit. Yeah.
So easy to get this kind of spillover stream. So it's just three things that I wanted to do in this stream. The first is just to do a kind of a bit of a callback, because we had a stream where we were talking about the Elon versus Judge Alexandre Moraes case, where to freshen it up, there was tensions between the Supreme Court judge of Brazil, Alexandre. Is it Alexandru or is it Alexandre? I think. Just let me Google it. It slips my mind so quickly.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, I was just answering someone in the chat asking about where the Werner Herzog saying they're a disease of our time in the intro. For anyone who's interested in the Herzog quotes that are used, I found them on Vingul's channel, Vingul. You can check him out on YouTube.
Yes, okay, so his full name is Alexandre de Moraes, and I'm not sure if I'm butchering that name. I'm not so good at Portuguese. But yeah, him and Elon Musk had a spat where the judge demanded that Elon would censor 7 disinfo accounts in Brazil, and Elon took the hard line on the free speech issue. And so the judge basically closed down Twitter in Brazil, whereas Elon pursued this sort of a campaign to get him impeached. And to my own credit, I predicted that the judge would backbreak Elon. I just didn't think it would happen this quickly. And maybe you could look up the article. I had one from the New York Times, but it was paywalled, so maybe you could look at the CNN.
Yes, I'll bring it up.
One.
One moment here. Let's see here. I should have prepared this beforehand. Here we go. So, Elon Musk bows to pressure from Brazil's top. Nope, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Let's try this again. Here we go. Elon Musk bows to pressure from Brazil's top court in a bid to reinstate X. Do you want me to just take it from the top?
Yeah, you could read it. It's quite short. It's a nice summary.
After a blackout of more than 3 weeks, X appears ready to comply with court orders in Brazil to restore access to its 21 million users in the country and end a protracted fight between billionaire CEO Elon Musk and the country's highest court. The lawyers for X informed Brazil's Supreme Court on Friday that it had named legal representation, according to Reuters, a key requirement for reinstating the social media platform in the major market. A day later, the court gave X an additional 5 days to file paperwork formalizing that representation. X has remained offline in Brazil for most of September, aside from a brief and inadvertent few hours last week, showing users a message that said, "Posts aren't loading right now." When X did come back online fleetingly on September 18, the company said it was committed to working with the Brazilian government to make the site available again, in a dramatic shift in tone from just weeks earlier. On August 30th, hours before the nation's ban went into effect, the same account had posted pointed and political accusations against Brazilian Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes. Musk had repeatedly attacked de Moraes on X in the months leading up to the ban, most recently calling him Brazil's Voldemort, Brazil's Darth Vader, and a dictator, which is that's a real like soy jack move, is to call someone a Voldemort.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
Or a
that
Darth
was.
Vader.
If you were on X at the time, that it was Elon and his lackeys like Cat Turd and Iron Mouse Chong, Jack Bosidic, that were spamming these sort of Harry Potter memes about the judge. It's incredibly cringe, but at least it's over.
Oh, I can see the two soy jacks pointing meme. He had also launched an X account dedicated to exposing alleged abuses of power by de Moraes. To be reinstated in Brazil, X needs to finalize its legal representation paperwork, pay a fine of approximately $1 million to account for the temporary return of service last week, and provide proof that all accounts identified by the court had been blocked. Protecting democracy. The order to block specific X accounts dates back to May 2020, when de Moraes determined that they contained hate speech and targeted democratic institutions. Most of the flagged accounts belonged to political supporters of Jair Bolsonaro, the far-right former president of Brazil. Someone asked me when we were doing the live event, I had at some point suggested banning Twitter in Norway. And they asked me if there was any sort of like legal grounds. And I figured, I mean, if you want to find it, it's there. It's very easy if you actually just want to find reasons to ban Twitter, I think. In 2023, Bolsonaro was barred from running for office for 8 years after the country's highest court found him guilty of abusing power and peddling a conspiracy that voting machines were compromised. He is also under investigation for his potential role in the January 8th, 2023 attacks on Brasilia, the capital. The orders were part of a sweeping investigation into the spread of misinformation online and a hate speech with a particular focus on content that tried to undermine democracy. This included unfounded claims that Brazil's 2020 presidential elections were stolen, echoing Donald Trump's big lie, quote unquote, about the 2020 US elections. The inquiry also investigated the pervasiveness on the platform of other conspiracy theories, false accusations, and threats targeting politicians and Supreme Court justices. Initially, the platform complied and removed the accounts, but in April, X's Global Affairs account called the court orders illegal and said that a year-long wait for an appeal had violated due process. Musk then threatened to reinstate the account, saying, "Principles matter more than profit." Well, apparently not, Elon. X has not responded to a CNN request for comment. The feud between Musk and de Moraes has expanded far beyond the courts. During the temporary return of X last week, Bolsonaro posted a message of support for Musk and X, saying the court decision to block users was not just censorship, but a serious violation of fundamental rights. In the U.S. Congress, Florida Rep. Maria Elvira Salazar, a Republican, mentioned Musk and de Moraes by name last week when she introduced legislation that would punish foreign officials who violate the First Amendment rights of Americans by denying them entry into the United States. That's all.
So I mean, what is interesting here is like the article says that X has not responded to requests, and neither did Elon Musk. He was just running pedal to the metal with this Voldemort Moraes files. Like he created an account with supposedly incriminating materials about the judge, started signature campaigns in Brazil to get him indicted. And I mean, my prediction was basically based on as soon as X shuts down in Brazil, the users are going to do other things. They're going to go over to Threads, that's owned by Meta, Facebook, and Blue Sky. I'm not exactly sure what the parent company is, but let's say that this court case. I mean, court cases take a long time. So, they could take 6 months. It could take a year, maybe longer. You're going to lose that like 1 year of revenue for maybe like 5% of your user base, and they're not going to come back if they've been on, I think, like the Threads platform for a year and they're comfortable. And they're not going to come back after a year. I think most people might have even forgotten about it. So in my mind, it's basically Elon's case looked quite thin, and even if he had a case, it would take so long to prosecute that he would just be hemorrhaging money, really for very stupid reasons. As we went over in the other stream, he already has deals with, say, like Erdogan in Turkey and Putin in Russia with sort of censoring specific content for those countries. So it's not really a universal principle for Elon to do this. So I don't understand why he wouldn't just do this for Brazil as well and maintain a good relation. But he just one day he just quit, and that was it. He never mentioned it again, which is interesting. I don't know. Maybe that's just his modus operandi. We talk about the memory holding disasters and these other things, but yeah, he just no. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Now it's finished, and then he goes on to some other pet project, which is.
I mean, I'm not sure how sort of the sort of practical day-to-day operations of Twitter works, but I mean, Elon has his shareholders he has to respond to, and he has a CEO that's running this, so it's quite possible that he's just sort of removed himself from this, or been told to remove himself from it.
Yeah, it didn't make any economic sense for him to do this at all. So that's I just assumed that he would cave eventually, and he did actually a lot quicker than I had expected. But then we could move on to the next thing that Elon is also focused on, which is the United States presidential election. And 2 days ago, we had the vice presidential debates between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. It went off pretty well. I assume you watched it as well. Do you have any
I watched it, yeah.
comments on it?
Yeah. We did talk a bit about it in our DMs as well. And I think, Vance has been getting some flack for stuff he says off the cuff, for things that infamous, is it the donut shop or whatever, where we showed it on stream a couple of weeks ago, where he sort of just fumbles the ball at every point. But in this sort of prepared setting, like a debate in this matter, it seemed that it played very well to him, and he's able to pull off the pathos, as you said, quite well, and up against someone like Vance, sorry, not like Waltz. Waltz kind of comes off as a bit of a nerd, which you don't necessarily want to be.
Virgin Chad dynamic. You don't want to fall into
exactly. So, while I don't think the debate itself was like groundbreaking in any way, because half the time they were saying that they agree with each other. It was a win that I didn't expect for Vance, and you posted. Did you make the JD Vance apology form?
Well, it's from another meme, but I had to adjust it at least for this
one.
So I did predict that he was
on YouTube,
he was going
to do.
I'll
pull it up. Yeah.
I did predict that he was going to do badly, for a couple of reasons. So reasons I thought he would have an issue is that he carries Trump as more of an anchor around with him. I think Vance has a lot of his own ideas that is tied to his conversions to Catholicism, his time in the Thiel network connected to Peter Thiel, Moldberg, and so on. Like he's read up on a lot of those people. He follows Bronze Age perverts, so he is more or less adjacent to the American dissident right and their ideas, and Trump is a little bit all over the place. So Vance has to have the role of sort of using all his brain power to kind of retroactively make what Trump says off the cuff make sense, as a kind of sane wash.
Which
A
it
lot of the
didn't
stuff,
seem like when he was chosen. Like, he didn't seem like that would be his role in this.
No, I mean, I assumed that that would be a bigger emphasis, but he was able to avoid that trap. He was also able to avoid the kind of online right trap, which is, you know, I think that's the kind of trap that Trump fell into. If you're listening to people like Laura Loomer or Marjorie Taylor Greene, or like these people from InfoWars about how you should do the debates and what you should bring up, but I mean, these talking points and these kind of ways of thinking and presenting yourself are actually really unpopular outside of the chud sphere. So he was able to come in and just not. First of all, he did not try to focus and bog himself down trying to defend everything Trump has said. He did not try to focus on this kind of owning the libs chud jack stuff, which would have actually been quite damaging. He went in trying to be just kind of polite and sympathetic. And go a bit, try to play off this the kind of hillbilly elegy imagery, because that's what he was known for before this political stuff. That he wrote the book about, like how his mom is a pill
mentioned
junkie.
Appalachia specifically.
Yeah, a lot of time. Like, but my mom had to go into medical debt to feed me, and all of these. It's sob stories, right? But it's good sob stories. I've followed politics for a while and always been kind of upset that it's the people on the right will come in with arguments, and the people on the left come in with sob stories, and the people on the left win with the sob stories, because the pathos is more important than logos. For the people who don't know, I mean, you have what's called Aristotle's rhetorical triangle, right? Where you have the pathos, that is the emotional appeal, the ethos, that is the authority appeal. It's like your standing, like your education or a position in government and so on. And then you have the logos, that is just like the logical appeal of the arguments that you're trying to present. And I always feel like the pathos is the strongest one. If you're able to land these sort of emotional parts of these speeches, you get the most amount of people. And he was able to do this quite well by presenting himself as sympathetic, avoiding that kind of, the weird label that had been put on him. He appeared normal, competent, and really played off this kind of sympathy for the pillbillies type. I mean, I'm making it sound silly, but it is a real thing, and I think that's a lot of the people who are on Team MAGA currently. That's what they're there for. This like kind of the left behind Rust Belt state grievance politics. That's kind of what they want. Yeah. Like, aside from the dunking on the libs, the more kind of sincere emotional pulse behind MAGA has always been the kind of like the grievance from the people who were left behind by the systems when they move the jobs to China and so on. So, right. That's what I wrote.
To be fair, Tim Walz did a lot of the same thing for the middle class during this debate. And while I shared your apology form for JD Vance, I will have to say that, if it wasn't for Tim Walz doing badly, this is, sorry, I'm stumbling on my words here. A lot of the victory to JD Vance here is Tim Walz, doing a shit job, essentially.
I mean, my view on Tim Walz is that I think he was very prepared in terms of talking points, but he was not prepared in terms of doing a presidential debate from a charisma point of view. Like, he did not have a good dramatic instinct, if you understand what I mean, in terms of just creating openings, speaking in a way that puts dramatic emphasis on points. Like, this sounds esoteric and weird, but he talks in this kind of, that's what I heard. Like, he has been a coach a lot of his life, like Coach Walz. That you have this picture in my head of like this very like progressive male coach who never raises his voice. And kind of always has the same sort of controlled tone of voice, and has like this talking. Well, everybody's working together here, and we shake each other's hands, and then we get together. Blah, 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 blah. And that's how like every point is delivered in the same kind of like slightly raised tone, where it's sort of it doesn't create agitation. It's sort of, it creates a predictability for the people that he leads. while at the same time, this does not help if you're in this kind of a debate, and Vance is not creating openings. Vance did not go into to own the libs here, right? So he would have had to create those openings himself. While at the same time, he is an older man, he is an uglier man, and a shorter man than Vance, and also a man that sounds that sounds a lot older. So I mean, you see the pictures here. Most of the memes that came out of the debate afterwards were sort of these. It's all about the visuals with this debate. Very little had to do with sound bites. Very little sort of TikTok clips that people. I mean, you still have the people like these Posebic UFC brain people who try to create these own dunk stuff, but it doesn't always work. But yeah, the impactful impression here is that you have the Vance with his mascara and one of this kind of heartthrob look, and you have like this older toad-looking man who seemed kind of uncomfortable standing on stage and made facial expressions that were sort of like you had the focus on that, and it gives a kind of skewing on the overall impression that you get of the debate. That even if you have good logical arguments, it doesn't help if you seem like you're not confident, seem like you're not comfortable in what you're saying. So it lacks credibility. I use the like if you think about the debate between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy, where people were saying that if you heard the debate on the radio, Nixon wins, but if you saw it on TV, JFK wins because he was more handsome and he had makeup. And he was sort of prepared for that day, whereas Nixon was just kind of sweaty and it seemed to struggle a little bit. And it's kind of the same thing here, but like Vance wins on radio and television. I think Tim Walz wins if you give me the transcript of this debate, and I don't know who these people are. Like I have no idea who any of them are, and I'm just going to read through the transcript and look at the questions, and I'm just going to see who I think answers the questions more consistently and fact check and cross-reference. Then I would give it to Walz. And like if I watch the debate, some of these sections on repeat, I feel like Walz is stronger because I'm less focused on kind of the immediate impression. But it's still that's the most important part of these debates, is to sort of make that impression of confidence and feeling in a sense. And he just kind of lost that part. He was just not able to create dramatic moments and sort of own JD Vance. And I mean, I could think of examples here, and I mean, Tim Walz is like a German Scandinavian type, and that's what I was thinking about when I saw him. This is like a typical German Scandinavian politician who's kind of unassuming, very bipartisan oriented, and pragmatic, but kind of lacks the flair of the American, movie star politician. And his bipartisan instinct sort of failed him in many ways, because he was talking about how he agreed with Vance on things many times. He said, I think we agree on this.
A lot of times.
I think
Vance did once or twice hint to like bipartisanism, but he didn't say specifically, like he didn't. It's weird because it seemed like Tim Walz almost sort of like bowed down to him when he did it. I mean, not on purpose, of course, but that's the way it comes off. It's like, yeah, well, I agree with you. But, and it's like, okay, well, if we all agree, then why are we here, right?
Yeah, but again, this is the bipartisan instinct, but you don't get anywhere with that with MAGA types, right? So, like the what would have been sort of the logical death blow for Tim Walz if he had the aptitude to take advantage of it would have been like the January 6th questioning, which was the most uncomfortable part for JD Vance, and his Vance's approach was to not address it at all. He just talked about something else. We're going to focus on the future, and we need to focus on freedom of speech and like less polarization. So, but Vance went in for this kind of Walz went in for the questioning round, but before he went on the attack, he's basically said, well, I think we agree on some points, and I really appreciated doing this debate with you, and blah blah. And he did like this long sort of. Oh, well, we're friends and all that, but we have to talk about this uncomfortable thing. And this is like the coach coming in, like this kind of progressive, like you're talking to the parents of little Johnny who is kicking people on the football field or something.
What it feels like? It feels like pre-Trump Republicans.
Right? Well, yeah, a lot. I think a lot of the Democratic Party have been sort of forced strategically into taking that position. But and a lot of them have gone over to the Democrats as well. So I think I mean I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, sort of the shifts that have happened metapolitically in the right wing. But that's kind of what I thought about when I saw that. It's the coach was, we're all friends here, and we really appreciate you being in this club. But little Johnny has been. There were some problems on the court, today, where he was kicking people in the chins, and we can't have that type of behavior. Like, that's not an own, right?
Yeah,
that's not an own. That's not a sting. That's not a soundbite. That's kind of like, okay, well, it's a little bit uncomfortable. We're going to have to talk about the January 6th thing. So he had some opportunities there to kind of really create these kind of large, bombastic, moralistic triads, but he instead went for just kind of like a bipartisan talking point, and that it doesn't harm him, but it also doesn't help him win, in a sense. So in a competition where you have two people talking and one is more charismatic than the other, then the least charismatic guy is going to win. I mean, from what I saw from polling, it was very even, with JD Vance edging out Tim Walz slightly in certain polls, and the approval rating improved for both by similar margins. So it seemed to be kind of a win for both parties, but more needed, I think, for JD Vance, considering that he was very low in the approval ratings. So he had more to prove, considering the expectations coming in. And that's why I think he did really well here. And I mean, and just to mention a bit about the aftermath on Twitter, is that you're getting these types like Jack Posebic and a lot of the MAGA crowd that is sort of in this, what I would call like the UFC, WWE mindset, and they like, oh man, our boy Vance wiped the floor with the CCP Walz, this kind of
right.
The sort of UFC. It's like, it was the same thing when we were talking about. You remember Lex Friedman interview with Trump? It's like you had the same commentary by Jack Posebic, like, oh, Lex Friedman, you didn't expect to be dunked on. You expect to be dunked on by Trump. It's like, and like they're just showing up there to have this kind of calm conversation, and that everything has to be interpreted as this kind of like WWE SmackDown retard fest. And if there's anything I'm looking forward to, whether Trump wins or not, it's just like he goes out, and hopefully we don't have to deal with like those people. This kind of like second tier perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of like
people constantly. It's
kind of like a revival of the blood sports era on politics YouTube, right?
Yeah,
it's
but
the closest thing you get these days, right? So
it's also tiresome because it's so partisan, right? It's not actual dunks. It's like, you're not showing me an actual dunk here. You just kind of made that up, and you're trying to make me think that. But it's I'm at least slightly like bipartisan enough to not to just look at what's there and like, okay, this was a friendly debate. It was actually it seemed kind of bipartisan, and Walz tried to come across with certain points. But again, you're not going to win any MAGA friends. But one of the things that stuck out to me was that he talked about like getting equity, private equity out of the housing market, which is it's like it's stuff like this. Like, he mentioned certain pro-natalist policies, and also trying to make housing cheaper by basically banning like BlackRock and these Blackstone, these companies, from buying up houses in the United States. And still you're getting like these kind of like Margatard bot accounts. They're talking about like the WEF BlackRock owned Tim Walz. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, you can't do bipartisanship with people who think like this. So it's sort of a waste of time. But I think he's too old to do anything else. This is just what he knows.
Yeah, that's, and it seemed that way when he talks about how he's been in, like, because he had a couple of minutes where he talked about how he's been in politics and what he's done, and this just seems like his style. Like, he's like a bridge builder, right? But I'm not sure if that's something you want to run in this climate. I don't think that's a very good move.
Well,
even though it's probably because of the abortion thing why he was picked by Kamala.
Yeah, I mean, I think the abortion is at least a political winner, if nothing else. So I think there was no damage done by this debate, but I think Vance came out victorious, and he was able to really improve his image. Even when I was reading like Norwegian, mainstream news coverage, there like that the consensus in these mainstream news articles is that basically like Vance is wasted on Trump. his talent are just
Yeah.
they should just like reverse the ticket and just run like President Vance with like Trump as the VP.
Trump as the vice
But
president.
I saw some people write that as well after it, that he was able to.
That would have been
He has a lot
incredibly
more
funny.
talent than I think people understood.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like he's been able to show that talent off. You know, again, referring to the apology form until now.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. He surprised a lot of people, and that's why it's really a combination of his performance and the expectation. I think he was just the clear winner in this.
Yeah,
but maybe not to rest too long. I think we could look at the next topic.
Sure.
That I wanted to go into here. I'm just going to look at because I mean, there's been a lot of talk that's going around on Twitter and in the social media spaces about like the idea of the woke right, which it is a bit of an eye roller, I think, for many people. The people who are bringing it up, like James Lindsay has talked about it. Konstantin Kissin is using that term, and I think particularly because they're using the term woke, and that comparison, it's sort of impossible because of the branding to get any kind of communication out of it. People would just kind of stick their heels into the ground and just like have this kind of knee-jerk reaction to what's being said there. But my commentary regarding this is that there is some of the ideas behind the concept of the woke right in terms of like the shift that has happened in the last 10 years to the right wing that I think have certain merits. And again, I would also not really use the term woke because it has a sort of like it has a certain labeling to it that you're not really capturing it by using this kind of umbrella term. It's completely counterintuitive, but there are like various aspects of where I think the right center right to the right wing has gone. And like two of these things that I would like to talk about, because I've covered a lot of the sort of foreign agent stuff too much already on this channel. But it's I think the first one is really the kind of the intrusion of esoterica into every single sphere of the right wing. And the second one is sort of the popularization of conspiracy theories, like hard conspiracy thinking, a la QAnon stuff that seems to have been mainstreamed. And I mean, if you doubt, we can look at some stats and some things that have become popular lately. That I think it's pretty safe to say that conspiracy theories, at least these sort of hard conspiracies, are mainstream at this point. So, but if we scroll the clock, if we just pull the clock back almost 10 years to say 2017, and we start with Jordan B. Peterson, because I think he is a sort of logical starting point where a lot of people got into what you'd consider right politics, anti-woke politics, because of him. And he was able to establish himself in like 2016, 2017 for being like this kind of voice of reason character. Like he was a very solid, sturdy, boundary person, in a sense, like a sort of bulwark against the left's insanity. Like you've seen these memes, like the left has gone insane with the bald eagle. Yeah. Like for example, the Kathy Newman interview is one of the things that he is famous for. Like he is interviewed by, you're getting the British mainstream kind of hysterical host who is just trying to bait him into saying the wrong things constantly. And oh yeah, well, are you racist? Do you hate women? Do you hate minorities? Yada, yada, yada. And he's holding his ground and just, holding the line essentially of sanity against the woke madness. That was the image. And not being agitated, because that's also a thing where, it's a standard experience where they would bring on people from the far right to these talk shows and make them agitated on the show in a way to sort of discredit their viewpoints. Yeah. Without actually having to tackle them, by just kind of baiting them into these emotional states. In a sense, you don't see it as much anymore. I don't think that the mainstream networks have the same trust and the same negotiating power. So now they have to cede a lot more. And I think a lot of people haven't caught on to this, especially like with if we go back to the debate, because that was the sort of thing in the debate that there was an agreement with in terms of no fact checking, right? Because it's something that Vance complained about during the debate. Where I was told there wasn't going to be fact checking, but that's something that they were apparently able to. They failed at it, but they were able to agree on it prior, right? And this would have been unthinkable 10 years ago, that you can go on a show and make demands of CNN in terms of how you want the debate to go. And it was a bit of the same thing with that documentary that contacted you, like the Sons of the North. The Norwegian broadcaster documentary, that they had a very hard time getting right-wing people to come on, so they would just kind of allow them to speak unchallenged to a much larger degree, to the point where that became a point of criticism for them. But I think that's where we are now with a lot of the media, is that they want like these kind of right-wing people on for views, but at the same time they don't want to amplify the rhetoric too much, so they are in a bit of a bind.
They don't know how to sort of thread that needle.
Yeah, how to walk that tightrope.
To be fair, though, or not to be fair, additionally, I think what it does is, hinders sort of high quality right-wing interviews from happening outside of spheres like these. Like, the mainstream media will then just not be able to find the sort of high quality people that would be able to challenge them on their own platform, in a sense, or on their own level. So instead, as you said, you just hold the mic up to some, warrior spirit guy, and he talks about, removing kebab for 30 minutes and why it's all, a certain tribe's fault.
Slobodan Milosevic did nothing wrong.
Right.
And fuck Israel every day.
While that's very based and cool, it just seems incoherent and rambly, right? So
it's more of a
it doesn't
look
move
at this
the conversation in any direction, and it just
look
plays
at this
into
guy
their
effect.
hands.
But we can look at the development then, because Jordan Peterson was a little bit into this esoterica from the beginning, where he was talking about Jung, for example. I got some lectures about Jung and Disney movies and this kind of, and it was sort of an entertaining thing, and it was a bit of that in his self-help book, but his message was simple. It was kind of like freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, right?
Yeah. And
it's like, I don't want to be coerced to use your pronouns, and young men should take accountability. So it's very simple, very easy to understand in terms of the messaging, and it was not crazy. This came across as the point of sanity, in a sense. And Jordan Peterson made this talking point that we know when the right goes too far. When does the left go too far? Like, can we have the conversation about putting guardrails on the woke left? That was his things. So very simple talking points. Again, freedom of speech, and when does the left go too far? The left has gone insane, yes. But then he went off the benzos and had to go to like this kind of Russian extreme detoxify treatment, and came back as this kind of absolute wacko who was then going to tackle geopolitics and do series on the Bible, and started to wear suits that were made of like wool of lamb and goats with varying colors, like these kind of like red and blue heaven and hell suits that were supposed to symbolize some kind of esoteric meaning. Or he has like these suits that are like this patchwork of Orthodox,
like the Riddler suits on.
The Riddler, the Two-Face suits, and the Orthodox Christianity, every Jesus picture that is sort of crammed in there, where it looks like almost like a sort of hentai comic or something. It's and he's talking, he wants to do now geopolitical stuff. He wants to like repopulate the planet. He has emotional breakdowns during it, and goes on these kind of, what do you mean by mean, and what do you mean by you, and this and that, and this absolute kind of postmodern esoteric speech, where it becomes so incomprehensible and so hard to understand, and so crazy in a sense, in a lot of what we do, because we can look at some of the stuff that he's doing now with Tucker Carlson and the Rescue the Republic, but that's for later. But he's on the same circuit as a lot of other people, say like the Weinstein brothers, that went through a sort of similar arc. Like Brett Weinstein was also a guy who had like I was almost canceled by the woke mob, and now I'm just doing podcasts essentially. with the kind of evolutionary biology background. So it's similar to the Evo Psych stuff that Peterson does, and he will just show up on podcasts just doing increasingly, system criticisms that it's just getting increasingly convoluted and esoteric, and just trying to explain simple concept by just how much academic mumbo jumbo can you put into here, and how dramatic can you make these kind of very simple opinions be. The same like with his brother Eric, who is a mathematician affiliated with the Peter Thiel network, in a sense.
Yeah.
When I was researching this, I came to think about like the connection between Weinstein and Moldbug, exactly because they look a lot alike. If you've seen them.
Careful now, Luddick.
Yeah, I don't know how many Moldbugites are still
No,
in
I was
despair. I
thinking
think
more about talking about their similarities and
yeah, no, that's
both
just a
being good
superficial
at word salads
stuff. It's like they have the
it's
the
called
moles,
high. What's it's
high verbal IQ. Yeah.
verbal IQ? Yeah.
so they have like the same moles in the face and the same hair color and kind of physiognomy, and Moldberg has taken a bit more Ozempic, I think, than Eric, but they have the same penchant for word salads that they go on podcasts to try to explain simple concept by just throwing around as much word salad as possible. And like this is like the Joker moment for me. It's like oh, you're saying that they're just word salad? Yeah, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. Like that's kind of what it is. I feel like this kind of esoteric word salad has become like the accepted format of communicating information on the right wing, and from the center until you get to the further fringe figures, but just including as much from like the Dead Sea Scrolls to the Talmud to like the Kabbalah to the Old Testament stuff, and like the Chinese ancient medicine stuff, like even with James Lindsay, who's not sort of far right, sort of more of a center right, still in the anti-woke space figure. He's probably like the worst example of this, where he released the book Cynical Theories in 2020, along with Helen Pluckrose, to kind of expose the woke industrial complex that's destroying academia. And I feel like that book was a lot more comprehensible than the kind of garbage that he puts out now. Do you have the tweet? Because there was a tweet from Warren McIntyre where he just captioned
I have it.
some rants. Maybe you should just read it up to just illustrate what I mean.
Do you want me to read Warren McIntyre or just James Lindsay's?
You could read the Lindsay ones, because that's the funny one.
On the woke right, given lack of access to... God, this is already reading like the Conservative Manifesto. I'm sorry. On the woke right, given lack of access to academia for the most part, there are only a few professors... Vermeule and Deneen are examples. They might be honest and earnest, Deneen, or not calling Vermeule out, but he's Harvard, so LOL. Many are in media, though. It must be said that recent, 2 years ago, shift in voices at the Blaze represents a woke right takeover of part of that operation, perhaps most notably in the heavy promotion of Warren McIntyre, who is undoubtedly a fast-tracked 2020 and so on woke right inner school adept. Let me make the point a little clearer for you regarding the last tweet. The woke right has already has at least one major conservative media outlet significantly, but not totally, under its control. They have openly celebrated that the Carl Schmittians run the show there now. Beyond that, there's a well-developed and well-funded network of activists in the woke right. Inner school that are doing a variety... Woke right inner school. I'm not sure what he means by woke right inner school. That are doing a variety of activities in, quote, building a parallel economy, which runs in parallel to what many conservatives have recognized a need to do in the last few years. These people are organized and funded and are strategically targeting geographical areas to begin to consolidate power and initiate a plan called regionalism, which is ultimately a WEF globalist plan. I don't know if they're participating knowingly. Probably not. Is he talking about the Libertarian Islands and the South America stuff?
Yeah, I think I get what he's saying, but he's more or less talking about like the dissident right. That's what he means by the woke right. He just means people like the Warren McIntyre, the American. It's the Vance network.
Is he still just butthurt that literally everyone on the dissident right called him gay like 2 years ago?
Well, I mean, things have changed. He's right to sort of notice it, but his way of explaining it and integrating all of this kind of weird terminology about like the woke rightness and the regionalists and like the World Economic Forum and I mean, this is almost kind of mild. He talks about like jihadists and this is mild by his standard. Like when I tune into his podcast, sometimes he'll sit and talk about like, you know, Chinese zodiac theory or something that he uses to explain politics or like it's almost on the level of reading tea leaves at this point, that like where I just really don't understand who is even listening to it. You know, it's so weird and it's so
kind
hard
of weird
to
though, because he's saying they're targeting churches, grassroots organizations, and local level, sometimes state level politics, and running the same kinds of wedge strategies typical of cults, wokes, and jihadis. Small numbers, lie and integrate. Medium numbers, leverage to gain seats. Big, rule. This is, I mean, it's just rules for radicals, right? It's just politics.
well,
He just doesn't like that it's being done by his enemies.
It could have been explained in a lot simpler way, because they insist on this kind of vocabulary that I mean, I wish I could have probably found some better examples, but I've been blocked by James Lindsay, right? So he
oh no.
yeah, but I mean, because the vocabulary is so colorful and so esoteric, that the actual meanings, it just gets completely lost outside of a core, you know, people who think they understand it. It's politics to sound smart, in a sense, to leverage yourself as a podcaster. It's like, I don't know, maybe podcast
the word
padding
count
or something. Yeah, podcast fodder. So like with these types, you have, it's like, yeah, that's an issue. But then if we move further right, we could look at some, what else is, you know, crawling around. I put a tweet in the private chat so you could, so we could look at that one.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up. Let's see here.
So it's more interesting just to look at the photo here, because this is like who are the top podcasts? Scroll a little bit further down because it's funny. Like the top podcasts in the United States now.
This is a rough photo.
and this is big business, right? Joe Rogan is still the king of podcasts, and then like Tucker Carlson is number 2. Candace Owens is number 3, and like the Talk To podcast is number 4. Right? Yeah. And it's just kind of tells you a little bit about where we are now, because the Tucker and the Candace is I mean, this is mainstream now, and you have to think about what that means, considering the type of content that's, let's say, like I've talked about Tucker previously. We'll get back to him and his like Rescue the Republic tour, but okay, let's say Candace Owens, who came out as a sort of like the Turning Point USA, Turning Point UK, you know, black-based conservative in the 2016-2017s, to sit and talk about individualism and black responsibility, right? It's contrarian, but also simple. It's kind of like pull yourself up by the bootstraps, black man stuff. You know, there's a place for you on the right if you want to take accountability. But then as we're moving on, we're going into more of this kind of like COVID, like vaccine genocide stuff, election stuff, multiple false flag things, and then we're doing flat Earth, and then we're getting into more this kind of like elites eating children. What do you call it? Like the demon, demon elite stuff. And she went from then like counter jihad in the beginning, and now she's like in the anti-Zionist Christian victimization stuff that Carlson is into, where she's now sort of doing this low IQ anti-Semitism type, poisoning the well type conspiracies, and talking about like the Khazar Jews and the Frankists who are corrupting all institutions and trying to genocide Christians, and like so. This is the whole sandwich of kind of loony conspiracies that it's now mainstream now in the right, and. I mean, just looking at this list, if you forced me to just listen to one of them, I'd probably go with the Talk To, just out of interest.
At least you'll get some interesting takes on physics and software development from.
Maybe I'll hear something. I'll actually learn something.
Just writing bullshit about like what she's been saying on the podcast, and it's just like hyper esoteric on some like deep academic topic.
But yeah, with Tucker now, who's also huge, who's run sort of a similar gamut, though it's a little bit more focused than Candace Owens, who just seems to speedrun every conspiracy. So Tucker's a bit more careful. but not as much. He's also gone very much balls to the wall with the kind of like UFO stuff, some of the pro-Russia stuff. He's very heavy on the revisionist history, and now he's doing the Rescue the Republic tours. I'll post you a link where he's bringing together all of these influencers and celebrities to do like tours with rock bands and rappers. You have like Skillet, Christian rock, Christian metal, Subi. Could you get it up so that we could watch the video?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's taking a while to load.
I see.
Let me bring it over. Maybe that's new tab. Here we go. Okay. Oh yeah, this clip. Oh no.
So here we have like Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand doing like tent revivals in front of people. Like, this is where we are at now.
Voluntary unity, not imposed.
Yeah.
That we brought together in these principles under your name. I pray for America, and if I have your permission, ladies and gentlemen, we'll end with the Lord's Prayer. Just do the version that you know. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Hallelujah!
If you pause it, he has the suit, the Two-Face suit on here, and
he does.
This is a thing that it would have been funny if he did it one time for an event or something, like a kind of musical award gala or a Halloween party. But if you're going to insist on wearing this thing around, this is like a mental health issue. It's there's a reason they dress up like bad guys like this, because they're supposed to look mentally ill. Right? This is not how generally, if you presented a character design for a character like this is not like a stable person. This is somebody who is who has some serious like mental problems. So he's wearing this to sit and do like prayers with the reformed Marxist rock star here, with like his shirt unbuttoned by like 5 buttons down, the chest hairs hanging out,
the big crosses. And
and that's one part of the content.
Looks like Aerosmith, honestly.
And then he brings on other people like Roseanne Barr. If you could get the I have another link here. Who, like, I've talked about Roseanne Barr before, but she's sort of a symptom of multiple things. Maybe you could listen to a little bit of the. This is from the Rescue the Republic tour.
You know they eat babies. That is not bullshit. It's true.
So it's not just the dogs and the cats, not just the pets.
It's not just the dogs and the cats. They're full-on vampires. And everybody still thinks I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They're full-on vampires. They love the taste of human flesh, and they drink human blood. They do, Tucker. Stop staring at me like that.
I mean, maybe I sound like a, deep in the Matrix shill here, but whenever you have to say I'm not crazy before something, that's always a bad sign for me.
Well, it's not just one thing either. Like, it's the combination of the of all of the, like, Roseanne Barr, for example, is known for like the sitcom that I think it's just called Roseanne, where it's like a family sitcom where she's the wife of John Goodman. I haven't watched it that much, but she had some sort of turn during COVID, and that's another problem with the right as well. There's so many of these grifters that have come in that are like these previous, B celebrities who have kind of burnt out in terms of their fame, their 15, 30 minutes of fame, who now seems to find new light by just showing up and spewing the most crazy rhetoric that they can possibly spew. And I mean, the problem here with you bring on people to these events like Roseanne Barr or RFK Jr. or like people who are into this heavy conspiracy stuff. is I mean, this is something I asked you previously. How am I supposed to, as a sort of person who interacts with the world, how am I supposed to integrate this? I can watch, biased journalism, right? I can go and watch people who, say, like Bronze Age pervert or something, or like Razor Fist, and listen to them and realize, okay, this is an entertainment thing. This is supposed to be a little bit art and a little bit entertainment, a little bit philosophy and politics. And so, okay, I get what I'm watching here. I know that it's biased, and I'm getting some information, some of the stuff that's speculation. But when you're dealing with these like these Infowar types, for example, who, let's say, okay, she's not affiliated with Infowars, like Roseanne Barr specifically, but I think she's in the same category when you're making these sort of eating the babies accusations, where it's sort of, okay, the shitlib view is just kind of, okay, this is not factual, and you just completely ignore it. And it's just blocked out forever. You're not interested in inviting people like this. You don't deal with people like this. You don't communicate with them. But for someone like Tucker and his audience, my question is, okay, how do you relate to stuff like this when people come up with conspiracies like eating the babies, or I had the one from like Harrison H. Smith, where he claimed that the hurricanes going on in North Carolina, it's like the American government that is using like geoengineering to seed hurricanes to commit white genocide, essentially, against the population or something. And I mean, conspiracies like that are presented as serious news. It's not funny in a sense. And, aside from just like completely shutting them out and just, censoring them, how are you supposed to relate to something like this from a person who doesn't want to be completely biased? In a sense, like the appeal that I see here is that she is talking shit against the people I don't like. She's accusing them, the elites or they or whatever, of doing bad things, and I don't like them, whatever them is. So therefore, I boost this stuff. But I think that's kind of a part of the problem, is this sort of the enemy of my enemy thinking, where you end up just including people like this who just live on another planet, and you've resigned yourself to this kind of post-truth sphere for the rest of your life. Essentially, this kind of like, essentially, you just don't give a shit. You don't care if it's true or not. You just platform anybody who says anything. And
well, I mean, you can look at it the other way around as well. Is the best way to kill a movement is to just open the floodgates and let all the retards in, right? Or if you want to be very conspiratorial about it, you place them there.
Well, it's very difficult for me to see exactly what's going on here, and who is winning, who is gaining from this, and having these conversations, because this has been framed now as like this is like freedom of speech. When Elon Musk is talking about well, freedom of speech is the bedrock of democracy. And you have people who are more or less like political arsonists, right? Or people who are just running into a theater and yelling fire in a crowded theater where there's no fire. This is essentially what they believe is like the cornerstone of democracy, is that you can get to just use freedom of speech to sabotage as much as possible. And and simply by just interjecting in that conversation and saying that we should have some standard, then you just throw yourself into the liberal camp instantly, right? Suddenly you're just like, okay, you're just a neocon lib or something. So if you want to be on the right wing, you sort of just have to be cool with people getting their freak on with as many like kooky theories as possible. You can't have, at the end of the day, any constructive discussion. It's just about creating the most kind of fancy new take, essentially, that they can rally around and throw at the people they don't like and troll people. And then afterwards, well, you don't get to do much, but you flung some shit, right?
Yeah, democracy is when takes, and the more takes, the more democracy. So,
well, yeah, but again, that's
like,
kind of
the problem is that it, democracy fucking sucks at producing something worthwhile, right? And I'm not just talking politics, just in general, right? A democratic anything is going to be worse than something that has been sort of directed. Yeah. Now, whether you want democracy in your country or not is one thing, but we're just talking about whether or not you want democracy in your movement, right? And obviously you don't.
Well,
Jesus.
I think people need to consider gatekeeping a bit more. But I mean, post-truth is the term, right? Post-truth and political entrepreneurship.
Yep.
That is what this is. But the problem is, where do you go from there? How do you argue with people who don't care if something's true or not? It's I think it's kind of difficult. It's a bit of a quagmire to get out of once you've gotten into it, and now we are in it. You know, when these things are like, this is like the most popular type of entertainment in the United States. I don't know how people are supposed to interact with this. That's kind of my final question, and I guess I'll just leave that up to the listeners and the viewers.
Yeah, how did you deal with this? I guess is where we're at. So we had some other things on the docket, but do you want to end things early this week?
Yeah, I think we could maybe have like 5 minutes for questions or something, and then end early,
We'll
because
do
I'm a
that.
little bit under the weather.
I think I saw something something from the Wine on to Vampire Slayer. The enemy of my enemy is probably my enemy. So-called righties will quickly jump on and embrace anyone those who agree with them on any issue. On some issue, sorry, Julius Flavius. Yeah, you're probably right in that. And yes, make inequality great again. Exactly. Edutainment 2020. Yeah, Steven Tyler with chest hair cross. That was exactly who I was imagining in my head when I saw Russell Brand there. Let's see here. Yeah, it's all coal. I think that's in reference to the Spotify top list. I'd be interested to see if there's one for EU and see if it's any difference.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I assume there's some cross-pollination. A lot of people listen to the Joe Rogan show. I wouldn't be surprised if that's like the most listened to there as well. Though maybe, yeah, maybe if it's Spotify, see, I can ask ChatGPT or something, because I have the premium version.
Has Jordan B. Peterson converted to Judaism yet? No, he seems to be doubling down on Christianity as his thing. Now, how far he's taking it, I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to Jordan Peterson in a long time. Ever since he basically said that you guys are taking the things I taught you and you're running too far with them because you're following them to their logical endpoints, I kind of stopped listening to him on anything. And that was obviously, I'd stopped listening to his lectures long before that. Unfortunately, I don't think I never went to any of his live stuff because I pretty much, I'm not trying to be like a hipster about it, but I kind of just devoured all of his lectures that were on YouTube before he blew up. And then I was like, when he became big and he made the book and everything, I kind of went, I already know this because I watched like 30 hours of lectures from him. So I don't really need to listen to him anymore. It wasn't anything like I think he's bad. I just like, well, I know what he's about. So I was happy with what I was extracting from him. Hawk 2 is catching up. Yeah, Julius Flavius says, isn't Hawk 2 a woman of the tribe? People are saying that. I haven't fact-checked it myself. Need an early life check on Hawk 2, a girl. It would certainly explain how she was able to sort of get up and running just on a practical level that fast, just having access to media. I mean, it's huge. I don't know what they're talking about. As I said, my favorite memes this past week has been people who are just like writing lies about what she's saying and then going into like deeply esoteric technical topics that she supposedly discusses on her podcast. So yeah, that's what I was saying, Dan Rader. How did the event go? The event
Oh,
went.
this is. I'm asking ChatGPT here, the premium version. She confirms that Haley Welsh is of the tribe. Actually,
Oh, interesting.
97% Ashkenazi Jewish.
Wow.
The Roseanne Barr is also of the tribe. Just so you know,
Of course.
she's a Russian Jew and changed her name from like Boris Solovsky or something to Barr when
Nice.
they migrated over.
The event went well, and I think we're going to be doing other events in Norway as well, using the same organization. So maybe we'll be at your local university at some point, to talk about democracy and how it sucks, and demographics and how the demographics suck. So, but I think we do have a bit of a positive spin on them. So I enjoyed that that event. I enjoyed making the speech. I enjoyed sort of presenting it, and I enjoyed listening to Logic Path as well. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, you're shocked. Do we have anything else we want to talk about, or should we just get going?
I think we can end it, and we'll be back next
right.
week with Nomad, if that's
We will
correct.
have Dissident Nomad on next week. I think we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things he's been working on lately, but I think maybe we'll just talk a bit about content creation as well. I was kind of interested in talking about that. He mentioned it, and how sort of the game is these days. So hopefully you'll be back next Thursday to hang out with us then. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff if you're listening on YouTube. Other than that, we're going to just wish you a good evening and a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.